What is going on? Politics Gaming here, and today we are going to be doing a little bit of an investigation into whether the polls in 2016 were wrong. There is a massive argument between a lot of people, between liberals and then conservatives, that basically argue about whether the polls were wrong in 2016. I think that they weren't wrong. I don't think, beside a couple of statewide polls that were being taken, the polls weren't exactly wrong. The nationwide polls were actually pretty accurate in the way they were perceiving how the people were going to vote in 2016. Now, the one thing that you need to know about the polls is that they are the popular vote. They are how popular one candidate is over another. Now, Clinton won the popular vote. Whether that was between, if you actually believe that that 2 million, 3 million illegal immigrants voted in the favor of Hillary Clinton, that's one thing. But in any case, the official tally between Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton is that Clinton won the popular vote by 2.9 million votes, more votes than Donald Trump. So essentially, again, this is the 5th time in American history that a candidate wins the Electoral College and becomes the president, but loses the popular vote. So Donald Trump was not that popular of a candidate. He was extremely controversial, and he was just not the most popular. But people chose him as the lesser of two evils over Hillary Clinton. Hillary Clinton was not a popular Democrat. She had so much controversy behind her, and Donald Trump took advantage of that. Now, in the 2016 election, there's a website called Real Clear Politics, and they make an average off of what polls are coming out, and then they make an average of how that candidate could win. Now, Clinton, before the election, on a RCP average from November 2nd to November 7th, Clinton was ahead by 3.3 points. Again, this is in a popular vote. If the United States had a popular vote election, then Clinton would have won by 3 points. But we have the Electoral College, and this does not take the Electoral College into account. There's so many votes out there, and again, there is the possibility that a popular vote could not be won by the person who wins the Electoral College, so this does not take it into account. Clinton was ahead Donald Trump by 3.3 points, but then ended up winning the popular vote by 2.1 points. So that's an error of about 1.2 points. So in any case, the general election, the polls were basically correct that Clinton did win the popular vote, but she was not going to become the president. Now, there are several states on here that you can actually click on any of these states, and then it shows you what the popular vote was going to look like. So in any case, I already have these pulled up. Michigan, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin were the states that were called essentially the Blue Wall. The Blue Wall was basically this impenetrable fortress that the Democrats had set up to say, you cannot get past this because you cannot win these states, and you need these states to win. The electoral map before the election was basically showing that Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania were required by the Trump campaign to seize the presidency. And that ended up happening, but there was an anomaly in the polls that showed that there was a hidden Trump voter. These were known as the Obama-Trump voters. These voters were actually people who voted for President Obama in the previous election and may have been agreeing with Hillary Clinton, or had not even been polling, and they were just hidden in the actual voter base. Clinton in Michigan, the state of Michigan, was ahead 3.4 points in the polling averages. There was one poll right before the election on November 6th by a Republican-based Trafalgar, if that's how you say it, group, and Trump was ahead 2 points. That was the very last poll that came out of Michigan before the general election actually happened. So average-wise, Clinton was polling about 3.5 points. She was getting 5 points from a lot of these other polls, and then 4 points from a Detroit-based newspaper. And then so in average, she was ahead 3.4 points. But then Donald Trump, those hidden Trump voters, came out and said, we're going to vote for Donald Trump. And then that's how Trump won Michigan. He won the Midwest, basically these 3 states that I'm talking about, Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania, by about under 100,000 votes. Actually, I think it's 70,000 votes to be more exact, combined. So he won Michigan by about 0.3 points. Coming over to Pennsylvania, the same exact thing happened. There was one poll by the Trafalgar Group that showed him ahead, and that was right before the election. That was again the last poll that came out of Pennsylvania before the general election even happened. So in average, Harper actually showed, it was a Republican-based, Harper was actually showing that there was going to be a tie. But Clinton was ahead, Donald Trump, poll-wise, by just about 2 points, right under 2 points. And then Donald Trump came in, those hidden Trump voters, Obama Trump voters, came out and said, again, we're going to be voting for Donald Trump. So Trump won it by nearly 1 point. And then coming over to Wisconsin in poll numbers was actually leaning Democrat. They were actually being shown to lean toward the Democratic Party, that's how their electoral votes were going to go. Wisconsin was actually one of the states that actually pushed Donald Trump over the presidency in some numbers. And this is actually the state where we saw the most anomaly coming from. Clinton was polling an average of 6.5 points higher than Donald Trump in the state of Wisconsin. All 3 of these states were very liberal. They're unionized. Unions basically run the presidential elections in these states. Whoever the unions voted for were the ones that actually whoever the unions supported were the candidates that actually ended up winning those states, because the unions have so much control over the state economy. But the unions actually ended up coming out and saying, hey, Donald Trump is actually going to be a lot better than Hillary Clinton. Hillary Clinton doesn't show her interest in her. And Donald Trump was campaigning so hard in these states. Clinton never even visited Wisconsin. Wisconsin was on the back of her mind before she even did it. And this is one of the mistakes that she actually had, in which she was like, okay, I made a mistake. But by the time that mistake was even shown, Wisconsin already flipped over to the Republicans. Whether this will happen in 2020 is a mystery. I don't know if the Rust Belt is going to be voting for Donald Trump again. If they do, I do believe it is going to be because of the job creations, of the unemployment rates going down in the country, and of jobs coming back to these 3 states. Whether these jobs are actually coming back, depending on what you're reading, is another story. But the most anomaly we actually got off of these polls being wrong was in Wisconsin, because, again, Clinton was going up about 6.5 points over Donald Trump, but then he ended up winning Wisconsin by the same number of votes that was won in Pennsylvania. So if we actually come over here, we're actually going to be opening all 3 of these states and seeing what their numbers were. So coming over here, we're seeing the difference is that, look at this area right here. In southwestern Wisconsin, Obama won these counties overwhelmingly. This is what gave him the presidency, and it was a pretty close one. It was just under 10 points. So Wisconsin seemed to have been shifting more Republican than Democrat. But coming over to 2016, he won these states, won these counties overwhelmingly. He flipped these counties because he was showing that he was a pro-industrial candidate. He wanted to bring jobs back, so he ended up winning by just around 20,000 votes. Coming over to Michigan, the same exact thing happened. These counties right here were blue in the previous election. If I actually go back to 2012, or actually it was going to be around here. So this was actually the county the county map in that election, he won by around 10 points. Coming over to 2016, the opposite things happen, and actually in northern Michigan is actually what gave him the vote. The more Republicans that actually come out and vote, the lighter these counties are, the less likely the Republicans are going to have the win. But coming over whenever they're actually turning out, that's how they actually win. And then coming over to Pennsylvania, the exact same thing happened. Trump was visiting Pennsylvania. I remember before the election, there was actually a lot of these, there was a rally held by President Obama in support of Hillary Clinton in Philadelphia. There was a huge crowd of people. There were so many people in this crowd. I was just like, okay, there's no way he can win Pennsylvania. But that's what happened. Donald Trump ended up coming out, turning out these people who were hidden in the shadows, and it gave him the presidency. The Democrats didn't even know that Wisconsin was even up for grabs, and that actually cost them. So in any case, I don't believe that the polls were wrong. The national polls were actually very correct on how the popular vote was going to go. But it wasn't calculating for the Electoral College, and that's why we have such a confusion over whether the polls are going to be correct in 2020. Now, if we take our mistakes from 2016 and we shift them into 2020, we have to make sure that we are accounting for the Electoral College. If it's going to, if the election is under 5 points and the polling is under 5 points, then I think there is still a chance that Donald Trump can be elected or be thrown out. But we just have to make sure that we're not taking these polls for granted. We need to look at it and look at what the states are polling, and we have to make sure that we are accounting for a hidden Trump vote or a hidden Democrat vote that are going to come out and vote for or against a certain candidate. If the Rust Belt ends up coming back for Donald Trump, at least 2 of those 3 states, at least maybe even Wisconsin or at least Pennsylvania, has to vote for Donald Trump in order for him to win the presidency. But at least we need to concentrate on what the Rust Belt is doing. And that is going to be a massive battleground for both candidates, whoever they may be, against Donald Trump. So if you guys like this, go ahead and leave a like, subscribe to the channel if you are new. I will be making more of these videos in the future. If you want to see any other candidates for election predictions, let me know. If you want to see any more situations like this about whether the polls are wrong or anything like that, please let me know. In any case, I will see you guys in the next one. Thank you guys so much for watching, and take care.